Our next speaker is Kim Holland. He's a researcher at HIMB. He has a bachelor and master's degrees from UH and a PhD from the University of Pennsylvania. Okay, this must be a misprint. It says he has been on the UH faculty since the year I graduated high school. And look at what great shape he's in. I feel like I'm a wreck. He's been on the UH faculty since 1980. Is that correct? That's remarkable. Much of that time has been involved with the electronic tagging and tracking of top predators such as tunas, marlins, and sharks. Major theme of his research is work with commercial manufacturers to develop new types of electronic tags. So, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Following on, thanks Doug and Jeff for the invitation, and following on the theme, as Lars just pointed out, of new technologies. This is some new technology in the world of electronic tags that people that are biologists like me are now finding ourselves dipping our toe into the world of oceanography. I'd like to acknowledge my co-authors and also the grad students in my group that aren't mentioned here but were instrumental in pulling this off. Specifically, our funding came through PAC-IOS and IOS. And from Wildlife Computers, Melinda Holland is the CEO, and she made sure that her company dedicated quite a lot of both intellectual and monetary effort into helping us develop some of these prototypes that I'm about to tell you about. And the forward is which one? That one? Sorry, Jeff.
I don't think that's past.
Oh, I gotta hit this
Yeah.
one. Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry. So the background to this, the ocean structure is undersampled, and that animals, especially in marginal seas, continental shelves, convergence zones, which are exactly the places where animals like to go, and that animals, including fishes and sharks, equipped with profiling tags can, in fact, provide much more coverage of the ocean structure than is currently available. So that whole concept of animals as oceanographers is a really emergent one. Give you a couple of examples. This is a southern elephant seal. Almost all of the information we have about the water profiles and currents in the Southern Ocean have come from animal-borne tags, such as this one on top of an elephant seal. For instance, these are the kinds of publications that are now emerging, publications which show significant improvement in ocean models based on data acquired from these animal-borne tags, in this case, southern elephant seals. Another example is on loggerhead turtles in Japan, have been used to significantly improve models in that region. For instance, if you look here, you can see the distinct improvement in the tightness of the fit here after using data from turtles, compared without those data, and in fact, even better than using Argo data to improve the models. So this whole concept of animals as oceanographers is emergent, and we're trying to be a part of that trend. Our animal of choice are tiger sharks. They're very common in Hawaii. They make very large vertical migrations and are very easy to work with. This is the piece of equipment that we're currently using. It looks like this. This is a tag which samples the environment once every second. When it comes to the surface, it can acquire a GPS location from this incoming GPS antenna, and the data that have been stored in memory and processed on board can be transmitted to the Argos satellite system when the animal breaks the surface. It looks something like this. So every time it breaks the surface, it transmits, tries to get a signal to Argos, but we don't have 24/7. We only have about 20% of the time is there an Argos satellite above. We've augmented our data throughput by putting these land-based stations at various high points around the island chain, and dramatically improved our data throughput. So how would we get, so these are data not from a tiger shark, and this is an intentionally short deployment, 4-day deployment on a 6-gill shark, which in Hawaii is a deep water shark. Here's the animal being released. The movements between 600 and 400 meters after a little recovery period. Then it goes through this typical diel pattern of movement in depth, and then the tag pops off on schedule, comes to the surface, and is recovered. So how do we turn this dynamic movement of an animal into something that an oceanographer would recognize as an ocean profile? And this is where one of the innovations that Wildlife Computers came up with, and this is the idea of a virtual upcast. So in what this tag does, this isn't to scale, but the tag divides the water column into these bins, if you will, and it's recording every second as it goes up and down, okay? And for each of those bins, of course, there's a temperature. So what happens as the fish goes up and down through its normal behavior is as follows. Let's just take, for an example, 400 meters of depth. As that fish goes up through that depth, it records, and it puts the temperature equivalent there. When it comes back down the next morning, it overwrites that value with the new value, and so on. And that's happening for all of these different segments, until finally the tag, in this case, comes to the surface, or in the case of our tiger shark, it surfaces and tries to transmit the stored data. So now we can turn this, and by forcing the tag, in this case, it's not a really good example, from here to make that profile, we can turn this and these overwritten values into this, which is something that we will all recognize as a profile. And then we can apply a broken stick analysis to that profile. So then all the tag has to do during that very brief period of time that the shark might break the surface and try and transmit, all it has to do is to transmit the time and depth and temperature of these inflection points for us to be able to capture the whole profile. Now, in concept, we could program these tags just to pick fixed depths to record and transmit rather than to try and construct this profile. So now we have a way of turning fish behavior into a profile. It's time to go and catch a tiger shark and attach a tag, which looks like this. And here you can see a tag very similar to this one on the dorsal fin. So what kind of data are we collecting? This is the movement patterns over several months period of one of our tiger sharks, tagged here off of Kaneohe. And a lot of the movements, as we now know, are typical, are fairly coastal on the shelf around the main Hawaiian Islands. But, as we also know is quite common, tiger sharks make occasional very long, several week long excursions out to sea. We don't know what the hell they're doing out there. I think they're probably eating seabirds, but we have no evidence to support that. And it eventually comes back into around Oahu. So each of these points is a point which has either been picked up by an Argo satellite, or when closer within line of sight of our onshore receivers, through those mote receivers on the various high points around the island. And if we zoom in on that track, this off the north shore, each of these bubbles represents where we have a transmission from. And if we pick on, say, this bubble here, it says profile number 23, time difference 2 minutes and 38 seconds. That means 2 minutes and 38 seconds after that fish broke the surface and tried to transmit its profile, that profile was received and delivered to our data archive. So it's almost real time. And it says that our location class in this case was a fast GPS. In other words, it's a GPS quality fix, which basically would put the shark somewhere in this room. This answers some of the demands of oceanographers to know where these profiles are coming from. And we can do that about as accurately as if you were on a big ship. And these are the kinds of data we're collecting. This is that same track over several months period. Here's one of those profiles starting down here around 500 meters. This is what we might expect to see, a typical ocean profile in Hawaii. And here are the 80-something profiles, all of which are overlaid here, including some from down 600 meters or so. Here's 80 or so profiles that were logged with GPS quality fixes. There's other fixes as well, the Argos quality, which isn't as good. But these are all very precise fixes, and these are the profiles that this one shark has given to us over a period of several months. So we would argue that this is a very potent and has a lot of potential, for providing tremendously increased data throughput, data acquisition and throughput that far would expand on the traditional shipborne or even glider data that are being currently collected, and we're looking forward to expanding the kinds of species that we work with. Blue sharks would be a great open ocean profiler. They're easy to catch. And we're also hoping to expand our geographic range. For instance, tomorrow morning I'm headed to Australia, where there's an organizational meeting of other biologists and oceanographers that are trying to form an international network officially recognized by GOOSE, the Global Ocean Observing System, to come up with an animal-borne sensor officially recognized network. So this is an emergent technology that we're right on the front edge of here in Hawaii, and we hope to expand what we're doing. And in terms of the data, so here's our tag on an animal, either through a satellite or through the MOTE, that's the land-based system, goes to the Wildlife Computer's data portal where it's assembled and archived. From there, machine to machine, to the Animal Tracking Network, which is a NOAA organization dedicated to animal-borne sensors, goes to their data assembly center. And from there, quality control processes can occur quality control. And from there, it can go out to the global telecommunications system, which is where meteorologists and oceanographers get near real-time data to feed into their models, and or it could be stored here at Pakayus, for instance, where it becomes available for whoever wants to use it. And as I showed in those early examples of those papers, these kinds of data can make tremendous, significant improvements to ocean modeling around the world. And that's a brief overview of what we're up to at the moment. Thank you very much for your time. Excuse me, Joe, I'd just add that this particular tag has an oxygen sensor on it, so that not only we'll be able to get ocean temperature profiles, but ocean oxygen profiles, and we're pretty confident that pretty soon we'll have conductivity, so salinity sensors as well. Sorry, thanks.
Lars.
So how long do you have to be at the surface for you fast long to get to?
Less than a second. So to get the incoming GPS signal takes less than a second. The point is it just captures the ephemera, the important part of the signal, and actually processes that on the tag even after the animal is resubmerged. It's just taking what it grabbed and then is doing that. So the next time it comes up, it'll tell you where it got that profile from. And then you can put them together.
Ryan?
I didn't understand the need to overwrite the data to get one profile from each surfacing. Is that a data storage issue?
Well, there's data storage. Data storage isn't the issue. Data transmission is the issue. It's a very narrow, skinny pipeline up to the Argo satellite, and there's some very clever stuff that I don't understand that these guys at Wildlife Computers have put into the way they code for what gets sent. Like, what is the priority to get sent? For instance, it's got a whole bunch of profiles in its memory. Which ones does it send? It sends the one which has not yet been sent, which is the most recent one. After it sends it, it'll send the one from before that. And so but the point is that you need to be able to overwrite each time an animal passes through the same depth, whether it's going up or going down, in order for you to get a number for each depth. And that's where that virtual upcast comes in.
Is the higher resolution data saved?
Not in this species of tag, no. Not in this variety. On some other kinds of tags, yes, if you get it back in hand, you'll get everything second by second. But this is designed eventually to be completely autonomous. You could let a shark go or a swordfish go. It could be anywhere in the world. You never see that animal again, but it would still be giving you the oceanographic data. Right? We have air breather envy. Basically, we envy people that work with seals and turtles because they've got more time at the surface to get stuff out, right?
Thanks again.
Okay, thanks, sir.